Will the European Union and NATO collapse just as the Soviet Union did? Markusira writes, if people stubbornly refuse to see reality and continue to turn a blind eye, living in their own nightmare, to the development of certain phenomena of a decadent crisis, the 21st century will mercilessly turn against them and trample them underfoot. The Russian historian Andrew Fursov has called this phenomena Sidonian Apollinarian syndrome. In the ancient Roman Empire, there lived a Christian bishop, writer, and poet named Sidonian Apollinarian from 430 to 490 AD. An extensive collection of his letters to relatives and friends has survived and is an important source for the history of the 5th century AD. This Christian therefore saw everything as beautiful and good. He could not perceive the decadent reality that existed beyond his beautiful home and his personal life. He is venerated as a saint in the Catholic Church. In one of his letters, Apollinarian wrote to a friend, "We live in a wonderful time. Peace and tranquility reign everywhere. I am sitting by the pool of my villa. A boat is floating on the water. The world is beautiful." But a little later, however, the Roman Empire collapsed. Fursov cries and laments about the blindness of today's people, which, quote, is apparently due to ignorance, partly to the unwillingness and indifference of today's people to see and perceive the tragedy of today's reality, unquote. Today, we're in a similar era. We are experiencing a political and economic recession, a moral decline during which more and more conflicts are breaking out around the world, and the situation is becoming more and more serious and critical. Fursov believes that a quantitative accumulation of negative trends, quote unquote, has been initiated and is underway, and that at some point the accumulation of quantity will turn into a qualitative change. Historical events sometimes happen quickly, suddenly, and unexpectedly. Fursov recalls a comment a friend's grandmother made about the collapse of the Soviet Union. Quote, "You can't imagine how quickly it happened. Before lunch, all the shops were still open, but after lunch, everything was already closed," end quote. According to Fursov, old structures and institutions are beginning to falter, to totter in today's world. He emphasizes that in such periods of chaotic upheaval in history, there have often been moments when social and political systems were either renewed or destroyed. Could the European Union, for example, collapse due to internal contradictions and external pressures in this era of accelerated crisis and decline? Are we on the verge of the dissolution of a new Euro-Soviet Union, which would radically change the map of Europe? And what will happen to the NATO military alliance? Will they have a common fate? The internal polarization within the US, which is taking the form of an ideological civil war, Trump's foreign policy strategies, and the rise of Russia and China could weaken the position of the West and NATO. This could lead to new geopolitical upheavals and upheavals in which old alliances will dissolve and new ones will emerge. To survive in these difficult conditions, you need to analyze specific analysis of the specific situation and understand the trends. This is a necessary, the vital, but you must also prepare yourself physically and mentally for the shortages that will arise after the deafening collapse of the system, warns Fursov, so that those who have time will take precautionary measures. The entire 21st century will be marked by fierce struggles at all levels, civil wars ready to break out in all levels within the ruling elites, between the elites and the middle class, between the middle class and the lower social classes and the elite, and within the lower classes themselves. Moreover, mass migration is sure to intensify the chaos and create a situation similar to the Brown movement, a chaotic dynamic in which the key will be to seize opportunities. Fursov believes that in the next 20 to 30 years, the desire to preserve our place in history as bearers of a certain culture and a cultural code will unite us. This tradition, which dates back over 1,000 or more years, is under threat today, and with it, our identity is in danger of disappearing. Unfortunately, the current development trends does not give much reason for optimism. Globalization, technological advances, and the decline of cultural identity seem to be rapidly worsening. If we do not pause and reflect on where we are going, we risk ending up in a world where the past is forgotten and the future is cut off from its roots. And what happens to the tree whose roots have been cut off? It just simply dies off. This is from Synergos Blogspot. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.